Well, we've got another problem here in the House. We had an IT worker named Imran Awan who worked for between 40 and 50 of my Democratic colleagues. Now, he sent apparently over $100,000 back to Pakistan, where he still has family, and he got that from a loan here in the U.S., and he's charged with making a false statement to get the loan, and yet that is a fraction of what we find from, just the reporting of Luke Rosiak, the Daily Caller. This article from October 3rd, 2017. And unfortunately, the only thing they've indicted Mr. Awan for is for basically making a false statement to get a loan, things related to that. But there are dozens and dozens of felonies in which he's implicated from his work here on Capitol Hill. This article says, now indicted IT aide to various House Democrats was sending money and gifts to government officials in Pakistan, received protection from the Pakistani police, multiple relatives claim. Democratic aide also said Imran Awan personally bragged to him he could have people tortured in Pakistan. Awan's lawyer acknowledged that he was sending money to a member of the Faisalabad Police Department, but said there was a good explanation. The relative said Awan and his brothers were also sending IT equipment, such as iPhones, to the country during the same period in which fraudulent purchase orders, and by the way, from what we've seen, there were clearly dozens of fraudulent purchase orders. Say, for example, an iPad costs $799, and Awan puts down it's $499 as a cost, maybe $300 for an insurance policy or something, but $499, that means it's under the $500 limit for things that do not have to be kept in inventory. So as long as Awan kept prices on these invoices below $500, he didn't have to have a listing of all the equipment. So he could keep buying iPads, iPhones, all these kind of things for different members of Congress's office, and there's no record kept of where those items are. They don't record the serial numbers, anything, as long as it's $499. Trouble for Mr. Awan, every time he put $499 on one invoice for something that costs $799, it's a federal felony. And he's implicated in dozens of these. And the evidence abounds. Yet, some of us had an informal hearing and heard testimony about this matter. And he was bragging to people about all the iPhones and iPads he was sending to Pakistan, to the police there, to intelligence friends there, these kinds of things. And because he listed them at $499, they're not on an inventory, so they don't have to be written off when they disappear. That's pretty handy. But the FBI has had opportunities to have those invoices presented to them. And each time they have instructed, don't bring any of those documents. We don't want to see any of that. We just want to talk to you. And as I understand, even this week, they continue to report, the FBI investigating, that, yeah, we've still found no evidence of anything other than this false statement on a loan. Why? Because they have instructed, we don't want to see the documents that prove those cases. They're readily available for anybody, any federal officer wants to see them, but they don't want to see them. So they can keep reporting to the new U.S. attorney that there's no evidence. No evidence. No, there's just nothing there. They can tell the Attorney General, yeah, we've looked into it. There's nothing there. And yet we hear from the reporter, he continues to talk to the witnesses, Luke Rosiak, and it was 80% of the witnesses that have personal information about the crimes the Awan's cartel, crime family, whatever you want to call it, have committed. And 70 now was 80%, now between 70 and 80% of those witnesses have never been interviewed by the FBI. That way they can still report to the new U.S. Attorney, to the Attorney General, we looked into it. There's nothing there. There's no evidence. Yeah, because you don't want to look at it. It abounds. And then when we hear that Mr. Awan is spreading the word among his friends from Pakistan that I've just got to get this deal done and work out a plea where I don't get jail time, and I'm already assured I will be able to work back on the Hill. I was staggered to find out when we took testimony that actually about 3 to 9 months of every year for the last 13, 14 years that Mr. Awan has been doing work as the computer technician for 40 to 50 Democrats here on the Hill, that he had never had a background check, but 3 to 9 months out of each year he was in Pakistan, and he was using the Pakistani internet to work on 3-4 dozen members of Congress's computer systems. We also learned that at one point they put over 40 members of Congress's data on one server so that anybody that Awan wanted to could access the server and get information on all these other people. And what happened? Well, that server with that serial number has disappeared, but the FBI has no interest whatsoever, at least so far, in investigating what happened to the server on which Awan put 40 plus members of Congress's data. One, we do know that we know some of the files that existed. We don't know what were in the files, but Awan had actually organized files that had members of Congress's email in them. Well, gee, why would Awan want to take members of Congress's emails and put them in one file? That sure would make it easy if you were going to transfer somebody's emails to somebody else. You just put them all in a file, put them on one server that lots of people have access to. It is phenomenal, the kind of breach that has occurred on the Hill. And there are two kinds of justices, and it breaks my heart. There's the Hillary Clinton kind of investigation, and there's the Donald Trump investigation. This is really tragic. So taxpayers are paying for Imran Awan's lawyer because he says he's destitute, yet he sent $100,000 or more over to Pakistan in one transaction, and we know that he has property listed in his bankruptcy. We know that he was in business, took loan from a guy from Pakistan who has known ties to Hezbollah, and they owed him money. And we can't seem to get the FBI interested in that. There are too many holdovers apparently from Mueller's day and Comey's day. We need to know what was compromised. And I don't care who the person works for, congressional computers should not be serviced from Pakistan. From information and belief, folks that should know, they tell me Pakistan would be one of the last places you would want somebody getting into congressional computer systems. And you say, well, what difference does it make? It's just emails, calendars. Well, there are people that pay a lot of money to have all the emails from a member of Congress. We just need the FBI more interested. And again, I understand. Last guy I saw making charges talking about FBI's lack of duty, he ended up being defeated by the FBI raid on his office, his daughter's office, 2 weeks before the election. I understand, but somebody has got to stand up and say, right is right, wrong is wrong, and there are so many FBI agents that have given their lives day after day, not making the kind of money they could elsewhere, but enforcing the law. And to have people like Mueller and Comey come along and put a blot on the reputation they poured their honest lives into is a travesty. And the only way we remove the blots is to call out those and make them responsible for the damage that they've done. And it's not happening. Well, anyway, I realize I'm running out of time. Luke Rosiak has great information here. He's done so much more investigation than the FBI have. I know there are a lot of FBI agents that I know personally that could take this case. I mean, just not listing a piece of property in your forms here that you have to file the financial disclosure could be a crime. If you do it intentionally, sometimes you forget, but for heaven's sake, he didn't forget when he filed bankruptcy. He's got property. He's got all kinds of things that he's never listed, and those are the kind of things that are important when people are servicing congressional computers. People need to know. And we need people that will be honest enough not to lie to the U.S. Attorney and not to lie to the Attorney General, the Deputy Attorney General. Well, I don't guess it matters to them. But for other people who are honest and trying to follow and enforce the law and the Constitution as their oath requires. We need a second special counsel. Need to investigate Rosenstein, Mueller, Comey, Weissman. And we need somebody assigned to the Awan case that will protect Congress from further breaches and from the Awan crime family for the future. Now, today there was a continuance filed moving Awan's hearing from this Thursday to July 3rd. Sounds like they're trying to do just what Awan has been bragging, that he's going to get a deal. It's not going to say anything about all the breaches of security, all of the felonies committed in the forms that he filed, none of that. And so he's telling people, at least he's assured, he can come right back and start servicing dozens of members' computers on the Hill again. For heaven's sake, we need somebody in the FBI to step up and do their job. I yield back.